Did any
Yeah.
questions come in, Mike?
We got one single question. My story reach has been throttled. Anytime I bring up the Not Our Finest Hour podcast.
Mm. Did you see that our boy Trudeau this week, since we were talking about him last week, said Russia needs to win this war quickly? He actually
Yeah.
said that. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Well, he was in Ukraine. I think he said that.
No, I think he was in
I
Europe. But
I saw this podcast, and you know how we're sending 3 billion to Ukraine? The
yeah.
liberal government broke down all the different things that they're donating that 3 billion for.
Oh, the transgender mining thing. Is that
Yeah,
what?
yeah, they're trying to get more people in the Ukraine. They're trying to introduce more transgender people into the mining industry. $3 million, three
The,
million Canadian tax dollars.
no, it's demining, right?
Oh,
So they're trying
demining.
to go out in the minefields and take the mines
Oh,
out of the fields. They want
oh,
the
fuck.
trannies to do
Okay.
this, and
Oh,
the minorities and shit.
Oh.
They said it shouldn't be just a man's job, right? They want to make it a job, an inclusive job, so all these people can do that.
That's
three
wild.
$3 million worth of Canadian. The list of things is insane that the money is going to. Which every time you see something like 3 million to transgender people demining fields in Ukraine, you're basically saying 3 million to getting money laundered back somewhere else.
Yeah, kickback of
Yeah, that
God knows what.
they have. I've this week I saw a couple clips of their the SVC Lavalin scandal, where Trudeau used his political influence to make sure that that company didn't get investigated because he's a shareholder or some shit.
Yeah,
He the conservative MP was questioning the RCMP on it, and he said if Trudeau was main uh the main source or what the main part of the investigation, did you interview him? And the RCMP is like, yeah, no, we didn't interview him. And he's like, I was a litigator for 30 years and a crown attorney, this MP. And he's like, and I've never been at a case where you didn't interview the main source of the actual case was about. How could you not interview that person? And they're like, we didn't think it was relevant.
yeah, great.
It's fucking crazy. Like the whole thing is just
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's really crazy because that was like him directly. The Arrive Can shit. I'm sure some of the 60 million made it back to his bank account, but the that SVC Lavalin thing, that was him directly going to the RCMP and saying, "You will not investigate this company." Like
yeah.
directly.
Well, for
Like,
the next 2 years, right?
yeah, until
Maybe,
20. Well, now they're saying he's probably going to get reelected. Another minority.
who's saying this?
Really?
Yeah, that's all the stories I saw this week said he's probably coming. He's going to get reelected.
I
No.
thought
They
Pierre
don't.
Polyev was the
Yeah, he's the
leading the
shoe in,
polls.
They're saying they're false positive polls.
just like your COVID test, false positive.
Just like, well, there was some other thing that happened with uh, Trudeau approved COVID tests were all fucking wrong or something too last
Yeah,
week. They're
yeah,
saying what they were saying was that they're pushing out all this scandalous shit so that they have a completely clean 12 months before the election. They're gonna keep pushing through all of this like Arrive Can, the the fact that they're saying that he should never have introduced the um emergency act, that was illegal, all the stuff they're trying to push it through so come October 1 he's completely clean, and then moving from October 1 they won't have to deal with any of the scandals, and then all it will be is a huge push on how conservatives hate the climate.
Hmm. Guess time will tell, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
get my full boatload of carbon tax every day, so we'll see what happens.
yeah.
What was the
When,
question, Mike?
when
Sorry,
is
go
our
ahead.
next election?
October
Uh,
2026.
Really?
Oh, 2025. October 2024 is 1 year from election date. So it's
Gotcha.
October 2025. Yeah. They got to increase the carbon tax 60% by the time the election comes. They're putting April 1st, it goes up another 30%.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
That's your, well, that makes food everything like ask more at like 30% on fuel puts like 70% on food.
But get excited when your refund comes.
I don't even know anyone that qualifies for the refund.
But that's the whole point. Get excited when your refund comes.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Innovative Landscape Co. Is there a labor shortage in your area? We need to make this last a whole 40 minutes here, guys.
You're saying we can't come up with something else to talk about? Come on. I can always go to some tried and true stuff. Like we can go search other people's podcasts and see what topics they're talking about.
That is something we haven't done in a long time.
And that's a great I like that. I actually think it's good. It does create great conversation. I don't know if there's a labor shortage in our area this year because I don't need any fucking employees. I have too many and I'm trying to find work for the ones I have. So that's being honest. Like I think there's going to be a bulk of labor this year. If you're someone who's in the position that has work that needs labor, I think this is going to be your best year to hire.
Yeah.
I think too, potentially that during COVID, during the big rush, there was a lot of people that got hired and were potentially maybe due out of desperation getting paid higher than their skill set.
Yeah.
And I think potentially maybe companies are going to find out that they have to move on from those people.
That's very true.
And because those people aren't going to be able to be budgeted in the new world where bidding is ultra competitive and you can't pay people who don't even know how to grade $40 an hour.
That's an excessive dollar amount for someone who can't grade.
That was 100% going on around here.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Like people were
even where
making,
your margins are razor thin.
but they weren't during this isn't now. I'm
No,
talking
yeah,
like
okay,
during,
yeah, I
like
understand the
during
dynamic.
what I'm saying, yeah, like I'm saying like what during the pandemic when people were crazily desperate for staff, if someone had any landscaping experience, they could finagle people into paying them like 30, $35 an hour, but they didn't really know how to do anything except carry bricks. But people were just desperate. And when you're desperate, you believe a lot of shit, right? Like when you're desperate, you believe more than you. Anyways, I think that in the new world where I think bidding is going to be more competitive, there's going to be more people bidding jobs. There's not going to be nearly as many sole sourced contracts. I think there still will be sole sourced contracts if you're a high quality company. But if you were sole sourcing 90% of your contracts during the pandemic, I think you might only be sole sourcing 30% of your contracts now. Having people that are highly paid that don't have a very high skill set isn't going to work for you. And you're going to have to let those people go. And when those people go back out on the open market, I feel that they're going to find out that the money they've been making was like under a false economy.
I think that's going to make them bitter, though. I think they're
Yeah, I
going to
wouldn't
feel
want to be that
entitled.
company.
I wouldn't
hiring
want to
them.
be the new company taking them on for less money
Yeah.
because they would be
Yeah,
bitter
I
off the start. And yeah,
But you guys
that would
you
be-
guys don't see this stuff happening? Like it could happen?
I can see it happening. I haven't talked to anybody that's hired somebody at that high of a rate, but definitely like in the mid 20s for people that just only know how to operate a hand shovel, not a shovel.
A shovel.
But I'm saying you don't do you guys think that there's a chance that some of these high price staff people are going to get dumped because they just in a competitive new market? Like
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of companies are going to go down to top 3 or 4 people. Like if you have an 8-person company, maybe you're taking yourself. If you have yourself and 7 field staff, maybe it's going to be yourself and 3 field staff, and those 4 field staff that maybe don't have the skill set for what those people are going to come available. I think there's going to be people on the labor market this year, or a bunch of those people that are making high wages that are, getting let go or whatever, maybe there's a new glutton of wheelbarrow and shovel contractors.
That
I could
always
do-
happens. That tends to
Yeah.
happen.
I could do it for myself.
Yeah.
I can't. I bet that the dump trailer salesmen are just I bet they ordered more 3.5 ton dump trailers than they could handle. And they're just rubbing their hands at all the bent axles that are going to come in this year and the batteries that are going to die from excessive overloading. Like I'm sure that I also think that there's going to be a lot, like I think there was a lot of shitty work done during the pandemic, but I also think that the new world, there's going to be a lot of homeowners that are hiring the lowest, like absolutely hiring the bottom barrel price.
Yeah.
And that's going to lead to shit work again.
The cycle continues.
Vicious
It's never
circle.
ending.
Yeah.
Cycle ending is never ending.
Repair work is going to be a good economy.
I
It
got a
will
guy
be.
for that. Yeah.
I got a guy for that.
We're still pricing everything that we can, even though we may have a monster coming up. We're not sure if we landed it quite yet. Word on the street is we're low bid, but I'm still pricing everything we can get our hands on.
Yeah,
You
I've
name it.
priced. I'm pricing building ramps out of asphalt.
Nice.
Yeah, like a wheelchair ramp off a curb.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like looking it up. Okay, I got to get some tackifier. I got to tackify the area after I power wash it. I got to get the HL3 and dump it down and pack it. Now I got to go find the right paint. I got to buy these ADOA plates, those 2x2 ADOA iron plates they want in there. Like, hey
Wow.
man, they're
Jack
building
must
it.
just be loving it.
I don't subject him to that stuff. I do it
Oh,
myself. If someone calls me up to price a bunch of speed bumps, I'm not saying I won't go build speed bumps. I'm saying I don't subject Jack to that. I do it myself. Like
yeah, I suppose.
he's working on stuff that's much larger than like, but all that small stuff is really important when, at the end of the year, the accountant doesn't ask you how you got to your gross sales. They just ask you your gross sale. No one asks you if you did $2 million in one job or you did it in 200 jobs. They just ask you if you did $2 million.
Yeah.
So I don't mind pricing all that stuff. I like having a board full of small jobs. And then if something happens, it's an in between. I like being able to say, okay, we got 6 or 7 small jobs to go to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You can move them around, shuffle them around. Hey, I'm coming tomorrow.
I love
Banging
a
on their
small
door,
job.
7 a.m. Hey, we're here.
I love a
But-
small job.
Yeah. Yeah. We priced I told you guys about this one. We priced that thing for the Lions Club, right?
Yeah.
Right. So originally all the names of the donors or the deceased, or I don't know, names of these people were supposed to go
Yeah, they could be
on
donors, they could be dead, but
well, maybe they're both, like
maybe they're dead donors.
yeah. Um so like they were supposed to go, I don't know how they do it, but did they water jet the names in pavers or something like that?
I think they sandblast them.
Yeah, something like that, right? But
Yeah.
you can get like names in pavers, right?
Yes. Yep.
The design's all done, everything's good. Send it to the meeting. The new head honcho at the Lions Club decides that instead of doing them in pavers, he'd like to do them in brass plaques. So they send
Why?
it back to me, and they want me to source a company that will make like 20 or 30 brass plaques and then find a way to fucking stick these things in the ground so that people can walk on them in an interlock application. Like I can understand maybe like you set them in concrete or something, but like to do it in interlock, it doesn't really work. I'm just like, you know what? I can't find anyone to do this. If you guys want brass plaques, I'll pour you a concrete pad, you bolt the fucking thing to it after the fact. But like, this is silly. So how much legwork do you do for the Lions Club? When the soft skate portion was already free, that was going to be a donation from us.
You were donating the softscape portion?
Yeah. which to be fair, I do on a lot of my residential jobs anyway. So it's not that far out of the realm for my company.
It wasn't that
Uh,
far fetched to donate it because
yeah,
I do that on the residential.
yeah, yeah,
That's a hard truth on the not our finest hour.
yeah. I do. My goodness, how much money and plants am I going to give away this year?
I I try so hard. You know what is funny? I try really hard not to give away the plant. Like I did it for years where I'd always be like, what could plants be worth? 2,000. And then Nancy would go buy $3,000 worth of plants. And I'm like, fuck. I still gotta put these in the ground. Now I try vastly hard. I make her give me a budget. I allow for the time. I do all the math. I know the numbers. I punch it into Hardscape headquarters. I like I do everything, but I still get fucked because Nancy always buys an extra $600 for the plants.
Hmm.
Always. But even if she says the plant budget is 2,000, I allow 2,500. And then she'll be like,
So you only lost 100.
no, she'll be like, sorry, the plants ran up to 3,000.
Oh,
Big fuck. It doesn't matter what I do.
in the headquarters software, I'm gonna need to see a drop-down bar with Nancy's name on it that adds to the plant budget.
I like that.
50% of the plant budget.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't they like the people that you hire to put the names into pavers? You would go to the local gravestone guy.
Yeah, something like that. No, this
That's
was
how
like the
that's how we used to
Shouldice
do it.
guy or whatever. These guys make like ledge stone or something like that, and they just blast
Yeah.
it in there or whatever. But
We used to get the because we used to do when you build entry features into neighborhoods and they have the name of the neighborhood
yeah,
sandblasted in and painted.
yeah,
They don't do that usually until you put the signs up in case the signs break or like
yeah.
because in transport a lot like I've dumped $5,000 pieces of concrete that were for a sign because in transport it got hairline cracks in it.
Mm.
I remember, just someone was this company that we hired to make the precast cement tried to transport these huge fucking signs flat, but when you strap them, they were breaking them, strapping them down. Never
Great.
mind the flex in the trailer. Yeah, they have to be transported in a vertical position because the
Mm.
strength is tensile up and down, not flat, right?
Mm.
I don't know. We threw like 5 of them away. They're fucking. It was like $5,000 a sign or something. Like they replaced them for free, but uh, we would build the whole thing, and then the sandblaster guy would come in and sandblast the whole name of the neighborhood. And like I'm looking at this entry feature, going, that's a job I can't do because you fuck that shit up. You're tearing apart the whole fucking entry feature, man. Like
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
tearing the whole thing apart to get because the sign is some of those we used to put the pieces of sign in. We would hang the actual signs into these entry features with like a 30-ton shovel to be able to pick them up and hang them. Like they were heavy and huge. Like a transport 54-foot flat deck would bring like one sign or two signs. They
wow.
were fucking massive and they're like 20 inches thick and it was crazy. I
Jeez.
did that back in when I was a kid. We used to do that stuff. Like all the entry features, man, a long time ago. I was thinking about something. I was like, man, I did that like 30 years ago. Fuck.
Ugh. What else we
So
got going on?
do you think there's going to be a labor shortage in Kitchener, Mike?
I haven't really thought too much about that. I do agree with you. I think that there'll be a lot more people to hire. And it'll be interesting which people kind of decide it's not worth it anymore and go to work for somebody else. And then it'll be good opportunities for others to maybe enter into a partnership with somebody or to start to get good qualified labor by buying somebody out or just like their equipment and take them on as an employee. I think it'll be an interesting year. I'll put it that way. I don't know if that answered what you asked me at all.
Sort of. Are you hiring anyone?
I don't know yet. I'm kind of up in the fence because the software is taking up a lot of my time, and I'd hope to have somebody in place by now in my business. I hope to have like a location by now in my business, but I'm thinking this year I'm just gonna keep it flexible again, me part-time guy or two, and be able to be flexible for those that are signed up for the software. I think that's my game plan for one more year, and then by next year, this time the software will be at a place where I'll have a support staff um, trained and onboarded and ready to take over what essentially I'm doing right now. And I'll have all my developers, which are already in place, and enough the software at a place where I can start to focus on my landscaping company more. That's the
So you're
goal.
gonna roll easy into the landscaping.
Gonna take it easy. Well, it's gonna be much like last year, I think, and that'll keep me flexible that I can continue to support the users on the software side, and then in the off season next year focus on the systems within the software side so that I can then be hands off on the software going into next season next year. And I'm hoping that's going to buy me some time to then start to get some employees in the landscaping. Ideally, I'm at a location that I'm going to be long term, and that's what I'm waiting for in the landscaping side of things.
So you're saying you're gonna be like either Kitchener or Toronto.
Yeah.
How are you gonna decide that? Flip a coin?
Uh,
Best 2 out of 3?
that's probably a good way to go about it at this point in time.
I don't know. I'm being serious too. I'm not even like
Rock, scissors, paper. I don't know.
they're both good markets.
Yeah, it's more so on a personal side of things. So,
Or are you gonna go wherever your wife tells you?
not necessarily that.
Yeah, you should do that just from
Yeah,
personal experience.
you think so?
Throwing it out there from personal experience, living in the parking lot's not that great.
That's a very good point.
I know, I really glorify it here on the show.
It sounded like
but
a lot of fun.
it's not as great as you might think. Yeah.
No.
Well, now there's Wi-Fi, so at least that would be better.
Yeah.
There's no fucking Wi-Fi back when I was doing that. Tim Hortons didn't give it out for free for sure. Are you hiring anyone, Chad?
Depending what comes up, I'll take on a guy or two, I think, if we need to. We're hoping that this big wall comes through and then that's work for 5 guys for 3 months or something. So we could have potential availability if that works out. We were talking to Jack about not necessarily migrant programs, but like Colombians or Mexicans or something like that. Wouldn't mind giving them a shot. Thing is, doesn't seem like a lot of people around here want to work, so um, that's always an option. I've always been interested in that.
Would you supply housing at the yard?
Apparently, you don't have to.
But would
Really?
you?
Would I? Do they want to live in my house that I'm constructing? Like,
No, I thought you had like an apartment.
yeah, but that's already occupied.
Yeah, but you just bring more people
Occupado.
in.
Occupado.
You just bring more people in.
Just bring more. Just that's the answer. Bring more. That's our government's answer. Just bring
No,
more.
so well, this is a totally offside story. This is a crazy story, like a fucking crazy story. There was a guy that worked with us. This is 15 years ago, and he was like sort of a transient guy who had lived in a few different places, and he worked with us in the fall. Ended up getting kicked out of that place right around the spring when we were starting back up. And there was 2 foremen at the company at that time. There was me and one other foreman. I have 2 good. We'll bring this home on some. I have another story too that occurred to me that I've never told here that is just so fucking outrageous. I, and so the other foreman was famous for having people live in his basement to try and, pay his mortgage, right? So he went to the guy who was working at the company who was getting kicked out in like a week or two and said, "Hey, do you want to live in my basement? It's $400 a month or whatever it was back then, and you can live in the basement." And the guy was crazily appreciative. Like, "Thank you so much. I've got nowhere to go. This is going to be great for me. I'll live in the basement. I've got a ride to work now," because he had no car, no driver's license. So, he could live in the foreman's basement, get a ride into work with the foreman. This is a fucking setup, right? So the foreman says, "Okay, pack your shit. We're moving you in on Saturday." So they get to the basement, they walk, and I heard this story from the guy, not from the other foreman. They pack his shit up, and he doesn't have a lot of shit. He's kind of a transient dude. It all fits into one carload from the place he's living. He goes to the other place. The foreman says, "Come on down to the basement. I'll show you where you're living." And they walk down to the basement, and in the basement, it's fully furnished, looks great, but there's a guy standing there, comes out of the bathroom, and the foreman looks at the guy who comes out of the bathroom and says, "Hey, this motherfucker lives here now," and then goes upstairs and leaves. Because that guy ended up being on my crew for a while. It was like the worst. I was just looking at this dude, and then the guy leaves, didn't even tell me his name, just said, "This guy lives here now," and went upstairs. He's like, I went over, said, "Hey, how's it going?" The guy's like, "What are you doing? You can't live in my apartment. This is where I live." He's like, "Not anymore. We live here together now." Like, the guy didn't even ask the person living in the basement if another person could come and live there. Like,
Wow. I love it.
yeah, just fucking crazy.
That's exactly what I need to do.
Yeah,
He lives here now.
this-
This is Jose. He lives here now.
Yeah, that's what
You
I
like
was.
empanadas.
That's oh,
You guys okay?
Jose lives here. Oh my God. That's funny what we were talking about. You were talking about, I was saying, like, you have an apartment. That story occurred to me. It was like, this dude just lives here now. Oh, you like him?
Oh God.
This podcast is fucking.
Oh, I'm glad we've got an episode title.
Even like that story sounds crazy. So it's so crazy that I couldn't have made it up, right? Like, that's like the first day the guy was living in the basement with the other person that he didn't know. on the on the on the drive over to the house, they were moving. The foreman guy had said to the other guy, "Hey man, my kitchen is like an open, like, if there's something you want to eat in the fridge, if you need some food, just grab it out of the fridge. Like, we're all here to help each other." And he says, "Okay, no problem." So after he got settled in with the weird dude that he didn't know, he went upstairs to the kitchen and opened the fridge, and there was some chicken wings on a plate. And he's like, "Oh, chicken wings, great." The guy said I could eat whatever I want. So he heated up the chicken wings in the microwave and he ate them and he cleaned up after himself and went downstairs and went to bed. At like 2 o'clock in the morning, the foreman guy in a raging drug fit came down the stairs into the basement because there was no separation between these living areas either. And grabbed the first guy that was living in the basement and said, "Did you eat my fucking chicken wings?" And that guy was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't." And this is like at 2 o'clock in the morning in the pit of the, and then starts punching in the face. "You ate my fucking chicken wings, you motherfucker!" And the new guy, now he's moved into this guy's fucking area, unannounced, uninvited, is like sleeping on the couch on the other side while this guy gets his face pounded in for the chicken wings that he ate.
Ah,
Like,
oh,
you
great.
have fucked up this basement guy's life all to fucking hell.
Man.
So these are like pure stories from landscape. This is like OG landscaping back in the day. And maybe this shit still goes on like this. I don't know. So for a long time, for probably 3 years, I picked this guy up for work. And he would always have his coffee with milk and sugar, milk in after
After what?
the coffee, because it tastes different. So you order your coffee and you say, "I want my coffee, 1 milk, 1 sugar, milk in after." You put the milk in after you put the coffee in the cup. Put the sugar in, you put the coffee in, then the milk.
That's
And-
one step short of getting a black coffee with the milk on the side and mixing them in your mouth. Like,
Guy was
don't-
fucked.
I don't think it does what he thinks it does, but
Well,
whatever.
I don't. So I don't either, and no one did. It's not like this was a commonly held belief. It was held by this one man.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of this before?
Never.
No.
Collectively, between the two of you, you've been on the planet 70 years.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, I've
Yeah.
never heard of it either, and I've been here 50 years. So, between the three of us, we got 120 years on this planet. I've never heard of anyone ordering their coffee like that previous to this guy. I've never heard of it after this guy. But one day we're in a Tim Hortons, like at lunch or whatever. And he goes up to the counter and it's not his normal Tim Hortons. It's just a random Tim Hortons. And he says to the person, "Hey, I want a coffee, 1 milk, 1 sugar, milk in after." And they don't do it. He watches them not do it because every Tim Hortons on the planet goes sugar button, milk button, pour the coffee in. And the guy goes fucking ballistic in the Tim Hortons
Wow.
and starts like freaking out, like climbing over the counter and screaming, yelling. And I'm like, "Oh my God," because you weren't following his coffee instructions. The milk in after.
Is this the same guy?
No, different.
Okay.
No, different guy. Different guy. Different guy. One time, the guy with the coffee guy, we were like working in like downtown Toronto, and he lived in like mid Oshawa, kind of near the highway where the highway runs through Oshawa, so it's probably kind of south then. And he had no money, and he got into a fight with the foreman, who was the foreman of the basement apartment. They were working on a crew together, and walked home.
Mm.
It took him like 26 hours.
Wow.
What?
Walked home. Yeah, because he had no money for the bus and there was no cell phones. So he just said, "Fuck it. I'm at Jane and Finch and I live in Oshawa, so I'm just gonna walk home."
It took 26 hours.
26 hours later, he rolled on in. Like, there was that group of people, when you worked with them, it was just, they were wild. They were like what I would define as real landscapers. Like they were like
Real
hard. More hardcore. Yeah. They weren't like these soft, they weren't soft people.
They didn't come with an open heart.
They did not come with an open heart. The one the one foreman quit one year and went to another company, and you'll never guess where the other company poached him, where they were when the other company poached him, where he met the owner of the other company.
Not
They were
at the
doing
bar.
they were doing weekends together in jail, and he fucking poached him. And that's a real landscaper, like to me. When you're finding your next position in jail with the owner of the company, like not a guy who's introducing you to the owner. The actual owner of the company is hiring you because he's sleeping on the cot above you, doing weekends in jail. That's when landscaping was a real trade. It's fucking fake now.
Maybe that was a recruiting tactic. He
Maybe.
purposely went to jail to be able to.
Absolutely could have. It's absolutely potentially a recruiting like it. Yeah, those were one time one of them came all the way to work and then was like, "Where's my sunglasses?" And no one knew where his sun. This was a different guy. No one knew where his sunglasses were, so he just went home. Just fucking shut. Like, I'm out of here. No one knows where my sunglasses are. Like, man, why would you even? Like, it just. They were a wild. Those 3 or 4 years were just like a fucking wild time. A crazy time in land. Like, well, I guess that's what landscaping always was, but that was. Yeah. Yeah. What do you?
I love it.
What do you think? One of the crazy, like, one of the there was the guy I worked with. This is like fucking 25 years ago.
Was this the same place that got trashed because the paychecks didn't show up on time?
This story is from there. The other
Okay.
stories are from the very beginning of Ridge Lake, like OG Ridge Lake. I was I don't know if you guys saw my notes. I was posting this thing that was like work a Tuesday, miss a
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
So that was the crazy guy who I don't know, whatever he was that walked home from, and he was the same guy with the coffee. That was his whole life. He'd be sitting with you and he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna miss a Wednesday, but I'll work a Saturday." Like, okay, like we're gonna work all the days. No, I'll miss a Tuesday, work a Thursday. How's that sound to you? Like, I guess it sounds okay. Like, could you make me work a Tuesday and a Thursday? Work a Tuesday, work a Thursday, miss a Monday. How do you feel about that? Be like, what if we work a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? No. That's way too much. Work a Monday, miss a Wednesday, work a Thursday, miss a Saturday, work a Sunday, miss a Tuesday. How about that deal? I'd be like, sure, bro. Let's do that. Let's do that shit. Let's miss a Monday, work a Tuesday, miss a Thursday, work a Sunday. And I'd be like, man, no one's working on Sunday. I'll just come in and do some work by myself.
I got that before. Yeah, that's how
Okay.
that works.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't like we
It's
all
not
need
productive.
to. We all need to be there. Like miss a Sunday, work a Tuesday. That's what was. It just was. So there. This is like 25 years ago. There was a guy who, um, he lived in his van, and so he lived in his van in Darlington Provincial Park, and so every day he would drive his van into the shop, and then we would go about our business, and then he would drive his van back to Darlington Provincial Park for the night. But we were doing a job in Hamilton, and for some reason he started driving his van to Hamilton every day, and every night he'd be like, "I got to go home," and he would drive back to Darlington Provincial Park from Hamilton. And one day he's like, "I got to go home," and I'm like, "Dude, you are home. Like you live in the van. Like, why not just stay here? Why waste the gas of driving back to the provincial park? Like, why not just live in the van in this construction site? Go to the Y, pay the $4, have a shower, get something to eat, head to the construction site." One of the things I remember the most graphically about that guy is every morning because we had a shop then with like a shop bathroom, and then there was an entrance to the offices. And every day, this might be a great way to finish this episode because I know Mike's got to go in 3 minutes. So this might be a great conclusion to the episode because every day this guy would come in and he was famous for this because he lived in his van that he didn't have like a pure morning routine, right? Because he would get it, he'd be asleep in the back of the van, run to the front of the van, put the van in drive, and get to the shop on time. When really, to me, I was like, why don't you just stay at the shop? Like, why are we going to the pub? Like, I guess he liked the way the sun set there. I don't know. Anyways, he was famous. You'd come in the morning, and the door to the bathroom would be wide open, and this guy would be taking a shit, eating a pear every morning. That was his morning routine. He did, and part of his morning routine was not closing the door. The fan wasn't enough for him, so he left the door wide open so he could enjoy his pear while he took his shit in the morning.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
You can
that's
get
a
behind
land-
that.
that's a real landscaper, baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our toilet doesn't even have a door.
Not, I think that those two stories were actually funnier, but once Chad said, "This is Jose. I hope you like empanadas," this episode couldn't be topped. That was
Yeah.
like, there was no. I don't think that was the funniest thing anyone has ever said on this entire program. I think that Mike, you should just cut that one line out, and then have us all laughing ridiculously, and we should use it to promote the episode.
Okay. I
Because out of context, that line is even more crazy. If you don't know why Chad said that, like, okay. Hope you like empanadas. Why did you choose empanadas?
I don't know. It's the first Mexican thing that came to mind.
I would have gone burrito.
Yeah.
It's
I
too
do love
common,
those.
though.
Empanadas
Like,
made- I know, that's why it was funnier. Like, I would have gone burrito, and it would never have been as funny as you saying empanada. But and that we have made it to 8:45, and Mike has to leave. So everyone, enjoy your empanadas. That's the end of the episode.